Hey everyone, Joey here again with another quick DIY video for you all. And you may have read my Substack article some time ago about remaining relevant as the years pass. But I'd like to kind of share that in a video form for you. And yeah, where do I start? Okay, where would I like to start with this? Remaining relevant as we age. What does that even mean? Relevant to what and to whom? As a music maker and a performer, I think it would be nice to have a younger generation discover my work. And I've been a niche artist for my whole career so far. Probably going to stay that way. And I've noticed it's kind of common for niche artists to get discovered by future generations, which it gives me hope. But thinking further into this, why should I care? I'll be dead someday. Why do we seem to care about being remembered after we're dead? It's kind of interesting, isn't it? How many grave sites go unvisited after the children or the grandchildren of that person are departed? Is it an ego thing? Or is it just human nature to have some sort of desire to be remembered? And what about being relevant in old age? Some people like Elvis didn't make it to old age, so it didn't matter, right? I'm going to talk about my dad for a minute because my father outlived all of his friends and relatives, with the exception of me and my sisters. And he still bowled 3 times a week with his league and went to a weekly luncheon at the senior center and made new friends there, but he never really developed deeper connections with these people or had other social time with them outside of those places. And I used to encourage him to, like, go down to the coffee shop every morning and sit outside and have coffee as a way of meeting people of different generations. But he'd never do it. He was just too set in his ways. And so these are two key elements: clinging too tightly on your own habits and routines, and also refusing to make friends with people who are younger than you. That was my dad. So if you don't make new friends, especially with younger people as you age, you run into the risk of like outliving your friends and your relatives. Okay, it's plain and simple. Also, having friendships with younger people gives you this opportunity to discover new things and also to become mentors to each other. It's easy to think that mentorship is exclusively an older to younger thing, but it goes both ways. And I think that most generations of older people seem to have a natural distaste for what goes on for like compared to when they were young. Okay, and think about this. Think about people at the turn of the 20th century who were listening to the music of Stephen Foster, like way down upon the Swanee River, and I Dream of Jeannie and Bicycle Built for Two. By the time the jazz age came into being in the 20s and they were now old, they just couldn't relate to it. And say, what about the older folks who hated the Beatles in 1964 and the hippie movement that came with it? And I'm just citing a couple examples, in music. But, if we go further with that, we have punk and hip hop and morphings of electronica and techno and everything. So when it comes down to it, it's all sound, isn't it? Sounds we grow accustomed to, and sounds that are new to us, and sounds which we reject because of unfamiliarity. And to some people, it's considered noise. For me, music is sound. So, and sound can be noise. And, what we typically do is we relate an experience with a certain song we might hear at a certain time period and a sentiment, a feeling. So we've attached something to it, So it might have been the sound of a jackhammer outside of your window, and you were having the best sex of your life. So every time you hear a jackhammer from there on in, you're going to get a warm and fuzzy feeling, but it's still noise, isn't it? So, anyway, how do we choose to relate to new eras of culture, is my point, and current events and younger generations? Being open is key. This doesn't mean that you have to enjoy every piece of art and culture that you encounter, but merely be willing to coexist with it and retain a positive outlook on your own life. If you dig deeply enough into most genres, you will find something interesting or of genuine quality, especially if an expert collector in a specific genre is showing it to you and your mind is open to it. So show me the best house music that you could imagine, because I don't know anything about it. Anyways, getting back to the topic of being relevant, there are many young people out there who are cross generational and they embrace past generations and love sharing and collaborating with elders. Elders aren't necessarily older people. Elders are older people that have some sort of wisdom and experience to share. Being old does not make one an elder. And elder culture is vastly disappearing from culture in general. So it's a different topic entirely, but there's an entire world waiting for this type of collaboration. I was always collaborating with older people when I was a younger man, and now I'm not quite as young, but whatever. And who wants to die alone without any quality friends? Huh? Do I remain relevant by being present on social media platforms? Is that what we do now? In a way, yes, because you never know who you might make friends with. It could be someone who changes your life in a mind blowing way. Or also being open to new technologies. Being, open to them is key, because otherwise, what are we going to do? Just complain for the rest of our lives? I mean, Jesus. I can remember when most of my friends were adverse to owning computers and using the internet, and now we're all like so attached and tethered to it, aren't we? And it's just interesting. So, learning new things as you age, especially skills, it can also contribute to your relevance. My father, he never embraced computers, but my friend's mom did, and who was even older than my dad. She was in her 90s, and she had this wonderful community of people on her Facebook page, people of all sorts of different generations, and they loved interacting with her all the way up until she died when she was 94. Okay. It was kind of like her lifeline because she was a shut in, but she was able to, make new friends. So, the average person who has children will be remembered up to about 50 years after they die. So if you have grandchildren, their kids will most likely not even know or remember your name. Okay. That I take that back. Great grandchildren. Okay. I don't even know my great grandparents' name. My sister does if I asked her, but I don't know. Kind of weird, right? Um, if you made a public career for yourself and you do have a slightly better chance of being remembered for longer than 50 years after you die, but that's still no guarantee. Most people are focused on what's going on during their lifetime and their generation, and less apt to pay attention to things that occurred before they were born. So, when I was a kid, the Beatles were still a big deal. And even though they were no longer together at that point, I couldn't imagine there would ever come a time when people didn't know their body of work on an intimate level. No way. Nowadays, the Beatles are the music of Gen Z's grandparents, much like Duke Ellington and Rudy Valley were the music of my grandparents. Although Ellington seems to have traversed the generations. But getting back to staying relevant as an aging music maker, I have mixed thoughts about it. I still enjoy producing and releasing new music, and even though because streaming, well, it's way more challenging to recoup the production costs. But I don't feel much of a need to be remembered anymore, but I feel more strongly about the service that music provides people. So, you know, we make music because it touches people. And even if only one person has a positive life experience because they somehow found a song of ours, then we are relevant and successful in what we do or for what we've done. The same holds true in all mediums of creativity. So, it's easy to say, well, I'll never make my production costs back, so why should I release music anymore? But you got to create, and it's like a painter. Some painters, they never sell paintings, but they spend a lot of money on this art supplies, and the art supplies are not cheap. So it's kind of the same thing nowadays. So anyways, I am still open to collaborating with new people if the chemistry feels right, just like I've always done in the past. Some of my musical elders, they're still around actually, but not really capable of playing the way they were 20, 30 years ago. But it's got to come from an honest place and serve the muse. There can't be any other motive. And this is how I will remain relevant. So, hey, comment, like, subscribe, and share. I thank you once again for listening to my thoughts, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Ciao for now, and I'll see you on the flip side.